Why am I breathing so heavily? Kitty, why is mommy breathing? I'm breathing heavily. Oh, great. The kitties are going to go berserk. Great. Hi, Carrie. Okay, honey. I'm glad you're here, Miss Carrie. Hi, Pam. Hi, Matthew. Hi, Peas. Hi, Peas in the pod. Babies, I'm having to do, I don't want to touch the screen. I don't want to get all, like what happened yesterday. So I'm looking over here to see your live chat on the laptop. Good Sunday morning. Hi, I'm Susan. Welcome to Lip Lock No More. Believe it or not, I actually have a little bit of content today. Yeah, don't touch it. I do have a little bit of content today. Hi, Outdoorsy Life. But I am requisitioning it from our book, Getting the Most Out of Life. So, is the audio okay? Can you hear me? Am I talking loud enough? I hope everybody's having a good Sunday morning or afternoon, or if you're down under, I suppose it may already be Monday. Yeah, that still is really weird to me to think about, that somewhere on this earth it's tomorrow. And if it's tomorrow for you, for us, then for you it's yesterday, but it's today for us. So yeah, go figure that out. So from time to time when we I beg your pardon, kitty cats, from time to time when we have read from Getting the Most Out of Life, this anthology published by the Reader's Digest back in 1946, I have thrown out the idea of transposing what we're reading from this book to our current day experience on YouTube. Let me look over here at the chat. I think I see a couple of names popping in. Hi, Tennessee Twister. Hi, Cat's Hodgepodgery. And I don't know what's going on here. Let me get a sip of Coca-Cola. Now, the title, when the faucet pops off, turn off the water. I keep buffering over here on my laptop. I hope we're still live. My phone says we're live. Let me refresh my screen over here. I hope I'm still live. I am? Okay. All right. Okay. The internet. Ah, perseverance. The title is just one of those. It's just one of those, other than the word perseverance. But it has to do with something that actually happened several days ago here at the house. I was doing something at the kitchen sink that required me to turn on the water faucet. And when I did, the entire faucet part where the water comes out literally popped off. It just popped right off and fell into the sink. This will not be as amusing now as it was at the time, because the retelling, you know, when something like this happens, if I'm not clever enough in the retelling to make it quite as amusing as when it actually happened. And like a dummy, rather than instantaneously reaching over and turning the water off, I put my hand over the part where the water is spewing up out of, where it would have been coming out the faucet, but instead it's just shooting up. Okay. Now, mind you, this happened more quickly than I can relate the story. Okay. This is like boom, boom, boom when it's actually happening. But rather than turning the water off, I clamped my hand down quickly over where the water is spewing out. And rather than it stopping the water, and those of you that have been around, we're usually in the kitchen, you've seen how it's put together in there. The water spewed around my hand like the most just fabulous water fountain, and up over the window, the curtain on the window, the little shelves on either side of the cabinets, above the sink with all the collectibles of the Fiesta ware, water everywhere. Before I went, oh, excuse me. And while all of this is going on, Bob is in the living room in his easy chair reading the Sunday paper. So it would have been a week ago today. Tissy Twister, I don't know. I don't. No, it had just, maybe what had happened is it had loosened. It's like, oh, practically, it's less than a year old. I mean, I even posted pictures. I was so proud of this new faucet. Okay. It had lost where it's tightened down at the base from me swiveling back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay. But the point being, oh wait, so Bob's in his easy chair, and I'm hollering, oh my God, honey, honey. Of course, water is silent. So he rushes into the kitchen as if, and I'm actually grateful to realize that if I am hollering out for my husband, the first thing he does is come. Anyway, long story short, he put it back on and tightened it back down, and no harm done. And the window needed washing anyway. The light fixture above the sink didn't necessarily need washing, but okay, it got a wipe off. And now I'm buffering again over here on my, but the clock is still ticking over here. I don't know what's going on with my internet. Must be heavy usage or something because it's Sunday. I don't know. So I'm gonna refresh again. Anyway, the moral to that story is, if there even is one, is when the faucet pops off, turn the water off. Now, back to the perseverance thing, and coupling that with how in the past, when we read from Getting the Most Out of Life, almost always we do just like the last two paragraphs. Today's content is going to be an entire story. It has to do with perseverance. And while I'm reading the story, what has gone through my mind, because I've already read it, okay? What went through my mind was my experience on YouTube. The story was so relatable for me personally. Now, for you, it may not apply to YouTube. For you, it could be something that's going on with you right now. Some challenge. Maybe there's something going on that you're thinking about giving up on, whatever that thing may be, whether it be health, the economy, you feel me, okay? Perseverance. Now, I want to see, yesterday I missed a couple of people in chat. Perf, I think, was one of them. Honey, if you're here, I'm sorry that I missed you yesterday. And there was someone else I missed, and I'm so sorry. If you're here, your name isn't coming to me now. I didn't realize it until I was watching the live chat replay from yesterday's live stream. I don't like to miss you if you're in chat. This is a very small channel with a very small chat. There's no reason for me to miss saying hello to you in the chat. There's no excuse. And there is a difference, by the way, between an excuse and a reason. But nonetheless, this is about to make me mad. The buffering over here. Okay, it looks like Kentucky Wildcat. I didn't say hi to you. Act Right Bitches. I didn't say hi to you. Hi, honey. Okay, darlings. Hi, flies. Hi, tea sleeper. We're just getting started, honey. And I suppose I can take you off charge. Carrie, baby, I referenced a while ago what happened yesterday and why I'm afraid to touch my screen. Yesterday, my chat kept fading like it does on my phone. And, you know, I always go over here. I'm not going to do it, but I touch over here where the little thing is, and it brings the chat back up. And yesterday, every time I would do that, it would try to shut down my live stream. It was weird. So that's why there's this weird thing that I'm coming over here to look at your live chat. So Now then. Oh, no, kitty. No, kitty. No, no. No, kitty. Keep going. Keep going. Hi, Pam. Keep going, kitty, please. Come here. Oh, come here. They always want to be part of the show. So, mods, since we have a couple of mods here, yesterday we did an entire live stream with no mods, unless somebody was in the bushes. A lot of times Cotton Candy 65, almost always Cotton Candy 65 is modding from the bushes. So, now then, I want to read this story. It's a biographical story regarding perseverance. So since we have mods in here, I'm not going to be doing a thing. It's enough distraction to have the kitty bouncing around. So I'm going to read. The title, oh, by the way, I don't own any rights to this. This is the very first story beginning on page 1 of Getting the Most Out of Life. Thank you, Carrie. An anthology published in 1946 by the Reader's Digest. All rights belong to Reader's Digest. Oops. How I learned a humble lesson in the grace of perseverance. The title is The Turning Point of My Career by A.J. Cronin, author of Hatter's Castle, The Citadel, The Keys of the Kingdom, as well as other literary works. I was 33 at the time, a doctor in the West End of London. I had been lucky in advancing through several arduous Welsh mining assistantships to my own practice, acquired on the installment plan from a dear old family physician who, at our first interview, gazed at my cracked boots and frayed cuffs and trusted me. I think I wasn't a bad doctor. My patients seemed to like me, not only the nice old ladies with nothing wrong with them who lived near the park and paid handsomely for my cheerful bedside manner, but the cabbies, porters, and deadbeats in the mews and back streets of Bayswater who paid nothing and often had a great deal wrong with them. Yet there was something. Though I treated everything that came my way, read all the medical journals, attended scientific meetings, and even found time to take complex postgraduate diplomas, I wasn't quite sure of myself. I didn't stick at anything for long. I had successive ideas of specializing in dermatology and oral surgery and pediatrics, but discarded them all. While I worked all day and half of most nights, I really lacked perseverance, stability. One day I developed indigestion. After resisting my wife's entreaties for several weeks, I went casually to consult a friendly colleague. I expected a bottle of bismuth and an invitation to bridge. I received instead the shock of my life. A sentence to 6 months complete rest in the country on a milk diet. I had a gastric ulcer. The place of exile chosen after excruciating contention was a small farmhouse near the village of Tarbert in the Scottish Highlands. Imagine a lonely, whitewashed steading set on a rain-drenched loch amid ferocious mountains rising into gray mist, with long-horned cattle like elders of the kirk sternly munching thistles in the foreground. That was Fine Farm. Conceive of a harnessed stranger in city clothes arriving with a pain in his middle and a box of peptonizing powders in his suitcase. That was I. Nothing is more agonizing to an active man than enforced idleness. A week of Fine Farm drove me crazy. Debarred from all physical pursuits, I was reduced to feeding the chickens and learning to greet the disapproving cattle by their Christian names. Casting around desperately for something to do, I had a sudden idea. For years, at the back of my mind, I had nursed the vague illusion that I might write or start a YouTube channel. It doesn't say that in the reading. I interjected that. Or a YouTube channel within brackets. Often, indeed, in unguarded moments, I had remarked to my wife, I believe I could write a novel if I had time. At which she would smile kindly across her knitting and murmur, "Do you, dear?" and tactfully lead me back to talk of Johnny Smith's whooping cough. Hi, Sandy Gant. Now, as I stood on the shore of that desolate Highland loch, I raised my voice in a surge of self-justification. By heavens, this is my opportunity. Gastric ulcer or no gastric ulcer, I will write a novel or start a YouTube channel. Before I could change my mind, I walked straight to the village and bought myself 24 penny exercise books. Upstairs in my cold, clean bedroom was a scrubbed deal table and a very hard chair. Next morning, I found myself in this chair, facing a new exercise book open upon the table, slowly becoming aware that, short of dog Latin prescriptions, I had never composed a significant phrase in my entire life. It was a discouraging thought as I picked up my pen and gazed out of the window. Never mind, I would begin. 3 hours later, Mrs. Angus, the farmer's wife, called me to dinner. The page was still blank. As I went down to my milk and junket, they call them curds here, I felt a dreadful fool. I felt like the wretched poet whose immortal masterpiece never progressed beyond its stillborn opening phrase. In a remote valley of the Pyrenees. I recollected rather grimly the sharp advice with which my old schoolmaster had goaded me into action. Get it down, he had said. If it stops in your head, it will always be nothing. Get it down. And so after lunch, I went upstairs and I began to get it down or start a YouTube channel. Perhaps the tribulations of the next 3 months are best omitted. I had in my head clear enough the theme I wished to treat, the tragic record of a man's egotism and bitter pride. I even had the title of the book, but beyond these naive fundamentals, I was lamentably unprepared. I had no pretensions to technique, no knowledge of style or form. I had never seen a thesaurus. The difficulty of simple statement staggered me. I spent hours looking for an adjective. I corrected and recorrected until the page looked like a spider's web. Then I tore it up and I started all over again. Yet once I had begun, the thing haunted me. My characters took shape, spoke to me, laughed, wept, excited me. When the idea struck me in the middle of the night, I would get up, light a candle, and sprawl on the floor until I had translated it to paper. I was possessed by the very novelty of what I did. At first, my rate of progress was some 800 labored words a day. By the end of the second month, I was readily accomplishing 2,000. Suddenly, when I was halfway through, the inevitable happened. A sudden desolation struck me like an avalanche. And I asked myself, why am I wearing myself out with this toil for which I am so preposterously ill-equipped? What is the use of it? I ought to be resting, conserving, not squandering my energies on this fantastic task. I threw down my pen feverishly. I read over the first chapters, which had just arrived in typescript from my secretary in London. I was appalled. Never had I seen such nonsense in all my life. No one would read it. I saw finally that I was a presumptuous lunatic, that all that I had written, all that I could ever write, was wasted effort, sheer futility. I decided to abandon the whole thing. Abruptly, furiously, I bundled up the manuscript, went out, and threw it in the ash can. Drawing a sullen satisfaction from my surrender, or, as I preferred to phrase it, my return to sanity, I went for a walk in the drizzling rain. Halfway down the loch shore, I came upon old Angus, the farmer, patiently and laboriously ditching a patch of the bogged and peaty heath which made up the bulk of his hard-won little croft. As I drew near, he gazed up at me in some surprise. He knew of my intention, and with that inborn Scottish reverence for letters, he tacitly approved it. When I told him what I had just done and why, his weathered face slowly changed. His keen blue eyes beneath misted sandy brows scanned me with disappointment and queer contempt. He was a silent man, and it was long before he spoke, and even then his words were cryptic. No doubt you're the one that's right, doctor, and I'm the one that's wrong. He seemed to look right to the bottom of me. He continued, my father ditched this bog all his days and never made a pasture. I've dug it all my days, and I've never made a pasture. But pasture or no pasture, he placed his foot dourly on his spade. I canna help but dig, for my father knew, and I know, that if you only dig enough, a pasture will be made here. I understood. I watched his dogged working figure with rising anger and resentment. I was resentful because he had what I had not. A terrible stubbornness to see the job through at all costs. An unquenchable flame of resolution brought to the simplest, the most arid duties of my life. And suddenly, my trivial dilemma became magnified, transmuted, until it stood as a touchstone of all human conduct. It became the timeless problem of mortality, the comfortable retreat, or the arduous advance without prospect of reward. I tramped back to the farm, drenched, shamed, furious, and picked the soggy bundle from the ash can. I dried it in the kitchen oven. Then I flung it on the table and set to work again with a kind of frantic desperation. I lost myself in the ferociousness of my purpose. I would not be beaten. I would not give in. I wrote harder than ever. At last, toward the end of the third month, I wrote, Finis. The relief, the sense of emancipation was unbelievable. I had kept my word. I had created a book or a YouTube channel. Whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, I did not care. I chose a publisher by the simple expedient of closing my eyes and pricking a catalog with a pen. I dispatched the completed manuscript and promptly forgot about it. In the days which followed, I gradually regained my health and I began to chafe at idleness. I wanted to be back in harness. At last, the date of my deliverance drew near. I went round the village saying goodbye to the folk who had become my friends. As I entered the post office, the postmaster presented me with a telegram, an urgent invitation to meet the publisher. I took it straight away and showed it without a word to John Angus. The novel I had thrown away was chosen by the Book Society, dramatized and serialized, translated into 19 languages, bought by Hollywood. It was sold, or it has sold, to date, some 3 million copies. It has altered my life radically, beyond my wildest dreams, and all because of a timely lesson in the grace of perseverance. But that lesson goes deeper still. Today I'm glad to recollect it. In this present chaos, with no shining vision to sustain us, the door is wide open to darkness and despair. The way to close that door is to stick to the job that you are doing, no matter how insignificant that job may be, to go on doing it and to finish it. Ignatius of Loyola was once playing a game of ball with his fellow students when someone demanded suddenly and with due solemnity what each of them would do if he knew he had to die in 20 minutes. All agreed they would rush frantically to church and pray, all but Ignatius, who answered, I would finish my game. The virtue of all achievement, as known to Ignatius and my old Scots farmer friend, John Angus, is victory over one's self. Those who know this victory can never know defeat. Copyright 1941, The Reader's Digest Association, Incorporated. Republished in Getting the Most Out of Life, an anthology of condensed stories. There are those who would like for me to shut up. There are those who either do not like what I have to say, or they're afraid of what I have to say, or they're merely just not interested in what I have to say, or perhaps completely indifferent. That's no excuse for me to give up. Therefore, I will not. Perseverance is the key. Therefore, I want to make this perfectly clear to every single person listening. Summer Moon Utah Wells disappeared on the 15th of June of 2021 at the age of 5 from her home at 110 Ben Hill Road in the Beach Creek community near Rogersville, Tennessee. That happened in the early afternoon hours, according to Leslie Earhart, the Public Information Officer for Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, also known as TBI. Nearing 6:30 p.m., 2 phone calls were made to the Hawkins County, Tennessee Sheriff's Department, reporting Summer Wells missing. At 7:03 p.m. on June 15, 2021, the first law enforcement officers arrived at 110 Ben Hill Road. Summer was listed initially as missing and endangered. The FBI Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team came in from Boston. There were no signs of abduction nor kidnapping. They're not the same thing. Kidnapping involves a ransom. Abduction means I just took you. against your will. At 11:16 a.m. on the 16th of June of 2021, during a press conference, Leslie Earhart revealed to the public that Summer had been elevated to a nationwide Amber Alert based on new information that had been gathered by law enforcement sometime between 7:03 p.m. on June 15th of 2021 and the morning hours of June 16th, 2021. And we, the public, have no idea what that new information is, was, or from whom it came. But it was significant enough for the TBI to elevate Summer Wells from missing and endangered to nationwide Amber Alert, although Summer's disappearance does not meet the 4-standard protocol issued by the Department of Justice of the United States of America to have an Amber Alert. Thank God, and Dan Armstrong, the Assistant Attorney General there in that judicial district that includes Hawkins County, Tennessee, when he was approached by law enforcement with the new information, he, in turn, as is the protocol for such things, approached the TBI with the request formally made to elevate Summer to a nationwide Amber Alert. For 13 days solid, all inclusive, 138 separate agencies searched day and night on foot in grid form, climbing through the rugged and dangerous mountainous terrain surrounding Summer's home. On horseback, on four-wheelers, with airplanes, with drones, with heat-seeking drones, with FLIR, with helicopters, day in and day out. Not a single shred of evidence has ever been found to indicate to law enforcement, therefore not to the public, what happened to Summer Wells. In the ensuing years, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has issued 2 age-progressed images of Summer Wells. The newest, issued in August of 2025, along with all the factual details known to the public, shared to the public by law enforcement, namely the TBI, can be found at TBI Newsroom / Summer Wells. If Summer Wells is still alive, in June of 2026, the baby will have been missing for as long. Whether the baby is alive or not, if she's not found, if she's not either rescued or recovered, by June of 2026, the baby will have been gone as long as she was here. And I will have been speaking of her and doing my best, whether good or bad or indifferent, to continue day in and day out in one way or another to remind the public that comes onto YouTube of Summer Wells. And there is not one motherfucker out there, not one, I don't care who you are, that can stop me. I will reiterate, as I have done for more than 4 years, I will continue to speak on this platform regarding Summer Wells and her disappearance until I am either dead or rendered incapable of speech. That promise was a spiritual promise made to Summer Moon Utah Wells herself, not to a single one of you, although I love every one of you, and you know I do. But that promise was not made to you. That promise was not even made to God. Because at the time, I had turned my back on God. Thank God, He never gave up on me. The only other thing that will stop me from speaking on this platform regarding Summer and her disappearance is if YouTube itself takes this channel down, which, with taking into consideration what's been going on here for the last, I don't know how long, on the main fiery streets of motherfucking YouTube, could happen at any moment, could happen right now. You know what I'll do then? If that were to happen, I'll go on every single panel I can find anywhere that has to do with missing children, and I will speak until I am blue in the face regarding Summer Wells. And anyone that thinks they can stop me from doing that, and anyone who thinks they're going to either start talking about Summer now, people who know almost nothing about her, her family, her existence, her disappearance, what has taken place in the over 4 years since Summer disappeared. If you think for one moment that if I find out that you are spreading misinformation, disinformation, bullshit, fucking lies, or wild motherfucking illusions of whatever to put money in your pocket, to build clout, or anything else that is not directly serving keeping Summer in the public eye and doing it to the best of your ability with the facts, give your fucking heart to God, because when I get done with you, there won't be anything else left. Figuratively speaking. Perseverance. Like most other YouTube creators, I have been to hell and back on this platform in the last 4 years plus. I have been taken to task by people that I wouldn't scrape dog shit off the bottom of my shoe with somebody else's shit stick. Made fun of because of my age. Made fun of because of my teeth. Made fun of because I have a big nose, I have big ears. Guess what, motherfuckers? If you're lucky enough to live to be my age and be half as healthy as I am, your fucking nose and ears continue to grow throughout your entire fucking lifetime. you're going to have a big nose and big ears someday too. One thing I don't have is a fat, lazy ass sitting on YouTube making up bullshit and scamming and lying and grifting, trying to get people to give me money while I sit on my fat, lazy ass talking bullshit. BJ. Brittany J. Allegedly with Brittany J. All right, I need to get off of here. I'm getting mad. So, that our content was the reading. So we won't have a short reading. So the tradition here is that I will sing you out. But I think we need to go out on the porch and let me light a cigarette and chat for a minute. And then, hello, Ilva. The only song, y'all, that's popping into my head. I am going to go smoke. I'm going to carry y'all out there with me. I think we got a little battery power left, and we hadn't been on here quite an hour yet, I don't think. Yeah. Y'all know I live in Arkansas. And y'all know that for the last 19 years of my professional career as a vocalist, I sang with a female trio. Most of what we did was a cappella, which means singing without your pants on. Okay, no, it doesn't. It means without accompaniment. And the first verse of this one song we used to do keeps popping into my head. Down in the Ark and down in the Ark and down in the Arkansas. Prettiest land I ever saw was down in the Arkansas. I had a cow that slobbered bad down in the Arkansas. It was the best dang cow I ever had down in the Arkansas. I took that cow to Dr. Smith to see what he could do for it, and he said, teach that cow to spit down in the Arkansas. So down in the Ark and down in the Ark and down in the Arkansas, the prettiest land I ever saw was down in the Arkansas. Now, the thing is we don't want any lull cows to start spitting. They already chew enough cud. If you put an R in there, it becomes crud. And I have a kitty cat trying to make a bed in my vest. Anywho, let's go out on the porch. Let me see if I can see a little bit of your chat. I took that cow to Dr. Smith to see what he could do for it. And he said, teach that cow to spit. Hi, I stand with Act Right. With these @ I don't like it. I don't like it. What you doing? Oh, he's eating, and we don't do mukbanging on this channel. But I'd flip the lens, but I'm afraid after what happened yesterday, if I touch the screen, yeah. Hi, it's not a drama nana. I figured that was you, but I didn't want to jump to any conclusions. But I knew you were blue. Hi, Jody. Jody Ann. Anyway, I would flip the lens and let y'all see that Bob is eating a ham and cheese sandwich and some chips. Oxygen's down for a second. Let me get a cigarette. Well, that's not going to work. Hang on. I don't know if I can see chat or not, babies. Kentucky Wildcat, you've actually, excuse me, I burped. You've actually heard the song? Don't hold me to this, but I'm pretty sure my friend Jimmy Driftwood wrote Down in the Arkansas. I met and worked with and around Jimmy Driftwood for the 19 years that I was employed by the Arkansas Department of Parks and Tourism. Babies, I'm having to get up here close because of the lighting. It's really hard for me to see your chat, which keeps fading. And I really have this feeling that I've missed some of you in the chat. I don't know if it would help if I sat on the other side of the table or what, or not. Anyway, your chat's gone again. Jimmy Driftwood, of course, that was not really his name, not his real name. It's aggravating. Let's see, I'm trying to, okay. Jimmy's most well-known song, he wrote because Jimmy was a history teacher. Well, actually, Jimmy Driftwood taught school in Stone County, Arkansas, in a one-room schoolhouse. And he was quite clever with verse. And he recognized that if he put something into rhythm and rhyme and music, he could teach his students history and they would remember the details. So as an example, this is the only one that's occurring to me that any one of you might recognize, written by my now deceased, but my friend Jimmy Driftwood. In 1814, we took a little trip along with Colonel Jackson down the mighty Mississippi. We took a little bacon and we took a little beans. Please don't take offense, my British friends. Leslie, if you're listening, anybody else in the UK, I'm just singing a song by Jimmy Driftwood. We're all friends now, okay? We took a little bacon and we took a little beans and we fought the bloody British in the town of New Orleans. I've been too low a key. Well, we fired our guns and the British kept a-coming. There wasn't as many as there was a while ago. We fired once more and they began a-running on down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. Oh, hickory, I'm changing keys all over the place because it's not in a key that's suitable to my voice. And Johnny Horton is the one that made it famous. But my friend Jimmy Driftwood from Stone County, Arkansas, wrote the song, and that was his, you can look him up. He was a pretty cool fellow. But he was one of those guys that until the day the Lord took him home, he dyed his hair black, and so did his wife. She was always with him as well. They were a delightful couple. But let's see. We fired our guns and the British kept a-coming. There wasn't as many as there was a while ago. Fired once more and they began a-running down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. Old Hickory said we could take 'em by surprise. If we didn't fire muskets till we looked 'em in the eyes. Okay? So that song was written not to become a famous song. It was written to teach his students the little details of that particular episode during the Revolutionary War, funded by the French. Thank you, French people. Hup, 2, 3, 4. That's right. Yeah. You guys sang it up in New York? Real? Oh, that makes. You know, there's what, 6 degrees of separation? Is that what they say? Of course, Not a Drama, Nana and I also have this little connection that we both are. It's no secret. Even my husband Bob knows. May he rest in peace. Not my husband. Oops, hang on. Maddie back. I think. Nope. Air Force. We're in the flight path of the Air Force Base in Jacksonville. Not a Drama Nana and I have this strange connection that came up kind of from out of nowhere between the two of us, with the now deceased Peter Steele, the bassist for the gothic rock band Typo Negative. Yeah, see how I'm getting all giddy just thinking about it. And what I would give if your doggone chat would stay up so I could actually chat with you. Baby, I can barely make it out. I think it says, no, I can't. It's the lighting. So, pirate ablaze, you were the first to be my last. You'll be my final word. Oh, oh, oh. Pirate ablaze, be my druidess. Be my everything. I'm waiting for your chat to come back up. Okay, well, fine. Don't talk to me. Anyway, I need to get off of here. Let's see who covered that when I heard it and I accidentally. Oh, that's okay, honey. Kentucky Wildcat. I'm glad you came back. Ozark Mountain Daredevils. Wow, that brings back some memories for me. Sandy, your ex flew choppers in Vietnam. You knew a lot of copter pilots back then. We had in the Booze Fighters Motorcycle Club, one of the charter members of the chapter that my hubby was also a charter member of, his road name was Gunner because he was a gunner on a helicopter in Vietnam. Baby, people are saying hi to you. Bob's waving. Well, we need to go back inside long enough for me to see if I've missed you in chat. You guys, I know I say this often, so it may start to sound like just empty words, but I really do feel badly if I realize once your live chat uploads that I miss saying hello to someone. I feel bad about it. Hi, Eve. Honey, Kentucky Wildcat is saying hi, Bob.
Hi, Kentucky Wildcat.
Hi, Kentucky Wildcat. I don't know if you could hear him. Anywho, I've had enough nicotine. And I need to get on with my day, and I'm sure you guys do as well. Sandy, yes, honey. Your ex lost one of his gunners. Those were really sad times, sweetheart. You know, in these days, one reason, y'all, that I get some that attitude I get with folks feeling entitled and whatnot, especially up here on the tubes. Let's go back here to the laundry room because Bob's got TV running and I don't want to risk copyright strike, especially right here at the end. I don't want you to fall over backwards here. Bye, Bob. And that's a water stain around the exhaust pipe for the furnace that we had a leak in the roof a couple of years ago. So that's just, I know there are people out there that like to go, oh, zoom in on that, look at that. No, it's not. It's a water stain. Hi, Mimi G. But back to what I was saying there. I see a lot of entitlement by folks who don't seem to either realize or recognize what came before them. Until 1974, when I was 24 years old, if you were a female, you could not have a credit card in your own name. You could not have a mortgage in your own name. Now we're talking about the average people here, not the fucking Rockefellers, okay? You couldn't get a bank loan in your name. You couldn't go buy a car in your name if you were a female in this country until 1974. Do you know why after that you can? Because of women like me. Sandy was mentioning that those were sad times. They were in a lot of ways. It was hard times in this country in a lot of ways. But people like me from my generation marched in the streets to give you your rights as females, to give you civil rights as a person of color. Stood up for freedoms, different freedoms at different times throughout our lives, vociferously. Not for ourselves, for you. My generation remembering the suffragettes that gave us the right to vote, for God's sake. Day in and day out on this platform alone, the entitlement is off the charts of people who don't know, or if they know, don't recognize, appreciate, or, I'm sorry, I'm doing these, what came before. If it weren't for old bitches like me, you motherfuckers wouldn't have a fucking voice. Do you understand me? Or you yourselves would this day be marching in the streets, screaming at the top of your lungs, at the legislators, at anybody, at everybody that would listen to you. We demand our rights. And we got them for you. Not for you to take advantage of, not for you to take for granted. not for you to trample on all over with disrespect and your fucking entitlement, but to empower you to go even further. We marched in the streets against the Vietnamese conflict. Where Sandy Gant's husband lost a gunner. I had cousins come back from Vietnam that were most certainly not the boys they had been when they left. And I have 2 sons who served in the Iraqi war. And my Marine came back with a 60% post-traumatic stress syndrome diagnosis, standing out in the middle of the street when he heard a medevac helicopter flying over in some kind of a trance that I wasn't equipped and didn't know how to pull him out of. Sleeping under the coffee table. After having slept in the killing fields, fighting his way all the way from the Kuwaiti border to Baghdad, along with his comrades. So, if anybody out there wants to know why this old bitch gets so wound up like a fucking 8-day clock over a bunch of bitches and wet-nosed, snot-nosed, wet behind the ear motherfucking punks such as Nick the Hat and Short Dong Hong, if you want to know why I get so wound up and pissed off over your disrespect and your entitlement, because people fucking died to give you the rights you have, and you don't. So, that's it. Guess I better sing something and say goodbye. Hi, Pink. Carrie Bishop's nephew served 4 tours. He was a MP, military police. To some of you, it may sound odd that I'm like, I marched in the streets against the Vietnam conflict, yet I have 2 sons who served in the military. They both volunteered. Of course, it was after the draft. It's what they wanted, to serve their country and to preserve the rights that their mother and others appreciate. Jeez. Ooh. Okay, I need a song. Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. Some say love, it is a razor that leaves your soul to bleed. Some say love, it is a hunger, an endless aching need. I say love, it is a flower, and you, its only only see. It's the heart afraid of breaking that never takes a chance. I may have just messed up. It's the soul afraid of dying that never takes a chance. And it's the one who won't be taken, who cannot seem to give. And the soul afraid of dying that never learns to live. When the night has been too lonely and the road has been too long, and you think that love is only for the lucky and the strong. Just remember, in the winter, far beneath the bitter snow, lies the seed that with the sun's love in the spring becomes the rose. Now, you just don't have to go home, but you can't stay here in my laundry room. I'm getting a little bit hungry. As you go out onto the main streets of YouTube, or as you face the situations in your life that require you to persevere, don't forget, you've got that superpower called kindness. And when you spread that kindness, it's going to come back to you tenfold when you least expect it, but you need it the very most. Also use that other superpower called discernment. There are snakes out in the grass, and those motherfuckers don't deserve what you have to give them. Save it for someone else. Now get the fuck out of my laundry room. Thank you all for being here. I'm sorry if I missed you in chat. So, it's the one who won't be taken that cannot seem to give, and the soul afraid of dying that may never learn to live. I love you. Now go do something good.